In each of these areas, we assess other people's trustworthiness based on their words and actions, and they assess ours. Being trustworthy and trusting wisely in each of these 4 areas means knowing and practicing behaviors that build trust and avoiding behaviors that damage it. Breaking the abstract concept of trust into these 4 different assessments makes it much easier to do this. Another value in recognizing these 4 different assessments of trust is that it makes it easier to see when we are assessing someone as untrustworthy in all ways, in all domains, in all areas, when, in fact, they've only behaved in a way that makes us question their trustworthiness in one way. For example, with these 4 distinctions, I can more easily recognize that someone who is consistently late in delivering on commitments, in other words, I get a negative assessment of them in the area of reliability, that person may still be someone I can trust as competent, sincere, and as a person who has our common concerns or interests in mind. So let's take a look at these assessments and actions. In this exercise, again, taking out your paper and pencil or pen, identify a relationship which you would like to have stronger trust in. Someone at work, ideally. Bring this person to mind. And then, using the 4 assessments of trust. So remember, the 4 assessments are sincerity, reliability, competence, and care. Using these 4 assessments, first, identify one thing you can start doing to build greater trust. So think about that person. Think about the areas of sincerity, reliability, competence, and care, and identify one thing you can start doing differently to build trust with that person. Now identify one thing you can stop doing to build trust. So in this case, it's something you're currently doing, but that if you stop doing it, it would build trust. Could be in the areas of sincerity or reliability or competence or care. Now identify one thing you can ask the other person to do. That is, again, ask the other person to start doing that they're currently not doing in your experience. And finally, identify one thing you can ask the other person to stop doing. What actions do you take that build trust in your sincerity, reliability, competence, and care? After doing this exercise, think about that. What do you typically do to build trust in your sincerity, in your reliability, in your competence, and in your care? Are there new things, new actions you want to start doing or add to your trust-building repertoire? What actions do you sometimes take that might damage trust in each of these domains? So, sometimes someone does something, and someone you work with does something, and it breaches or betrays your trust. When that happens, you have a choice. You can have a conversation with that person aimed at repairing the relationship so you can continue to work with him or her. Or you can maintain maintain your distrust, continue to distrust them going forward. Each choice has its consequences. If you choose to try repairing a relationship, the process outlined here to prepare for and initiate that conversation has proven to give you the best chance of success. So in other words, you think, I really need to fix this relationship, and I need to say something to this person. I need to try and repair this trust issue. So if you do these 6 things before you even start to have a conversation with the person, it'll really help ensure your greatest success. It doesn't always work right away, and it sometimes doesn't work at all. Still, it's usually valuable to try it. If you choose to maintain your distrust of the person, you have a good chance of preventing him or her from breaching or betraying trust in the future, because you're vigilant. You'll basically stay away from him. But you and the other person, and possibly others affected by the break in your relationship, will suffer to some degree. So take a look at these 6 things. First of all, decide if you're even willing. Can you muster the energy? Is it important enough to actually have a conversation and try and repair the damage? The next thing is to identify the specific assessment or assessments. Did what they do damage your trust in their sincerity, in their reliability, in their competence, in their sense of care or common concern? What area or areas did their behavior fall into? The third thing is to define your standard if it's applicable. What's your standard for behavior? For example, if it's in the area of reliability, and they consistently turn something in late that they had promised to have at a particular time, what's your standard? Your standard is maybe to have it on when they say they're going to have it. So then from the assessment area, identify the specific action or behavior that is important, that you want to focus on, and get them to change or ask them to change in order for you to be able to trust them. Determine what you need. Maybe it's not only that they change their behavior, but that they do something else in order to demonstrate that in the future you will be able to trust them. And the last step is to ask the person for a conversation. You don't just barge in on them. You don't just walk into their cubicle or their office and sit down and say, I want to have a conversation with you about trust, and here we go. You have to ask them for a time and a place and prepare them a little bit. Once you've gone through those 5 or 6 steps, thinking it through, understanding what it is you want to talk about, what do you want to say, what do you want to ask for, and then asking them if they're willing to have a conversation with you, recognizing they may not be. But if they say yes, here are 5 steps to starting that conversation. First, express your desire to be able to fully trust them. I need to trust you, you need to trust me in order for us to get good work done together. So you're establishing a baseline. You're establishing a common concern. The next step is to describe the specific behaviors or actions that you're concerned about. Rather than starting with, I don't trust you right now, begin with something like, and we'll use our example of reliability, the last 3 times that you committed to getting something done or delivering something, you didn't deliver it on time. It was anywhere from a day to 3 days late. But then, after you describe that behavior, stop and shift it back to them. Ask them how they see the situation. So, what was going on for you that it was late? Then, going back to what your concern is, describe what they can do differently in order to rebuild trust with you. And there may have to be some negotiation, some conversation in there. They may say, I'm sorry it was late. This is what's going on. And it's really difficult. So maybe in this conversation you can talk about how that can be mitigated in some way. And then finally, once you've kind of concluded on, kind of come to a point of this is what you can do to rebuild trust, ask if they're willing to do that. Get them to commit. Ask them to commit to doing what it is that you've talked about. These 5 steps really will help you ensure the most productive conversation possible. Let's take a look at the other side of this, though. What about when you've damaged someone else's trust? How do you repair that? The first step is to acknowledge what you've done, the action or behavior you took. Yeah, I did tell you this, and yes, I told that other person something that completely contradicts it, and I need to straighten this up. So acknowledge the damage it's done from their perspective. This means that you have to understand what their perspective is. Yes, when I did what I did, I understand that really it hurt your feelings, or it damaged your prospects for something, or whatever it was. Acknowledge that damage and ask them maybe if there's more that they have to say about that. Apologize for the damage they experienced. And finally, let them know you intend to do what you can not to repeat the behavior, if that's at all possible. And, of course, don't try to justify or excuse your behavior or action. Just keep it simple. No excuses, no justifications, just, yeah, here's what I did. I acknowledge the damage it's done for you, and I apologize for that. I'm sincerely sorry for that damage. I don't intend to let it happen again. Here's what I'm going to do to try and prevent it from happening again, or keep from doing it again. And just leave it at that. I want to conclude with this quote from Walter Anderson. We're never so vulnerable than when we trust someone. But paradoxically, if we cannot trust, neither can we find love or joy. Earlier I said that what we all look for at work ultimately is success and well-being. I believe that love and joy is a strong measure of our success and our well-being at work and in every other area of life. Thank you for listening to this webinar, taking part in it. One more piece, there are some additional resources listed on this page that you can access regarding trust. Thank you very much.